If you've ever been to the Cu-Kai tunnels, you probably understand just how true these words from an American tourist are. The Cu-Kai tunnels are not for the faint of heart. It's hot, dark, and incredibly cramped, barely over a meter high and just about 60 centimeters wide. With my camera in hand, I had to crawl on my hands and knees. When you move through these tunnels, it feels like walking through pure darkness. The closer I got to the exit, the more drenched in sweat I became. I couldn't help but wonder, how could anyone lie down here for months, when just a few minutes felt like a brutal challenge? A former American soldier who returned to visit Cu-Kai after the war also exclaimed, "These tunnels are like the New York subway system underground." Those remarks alone reveal how extraordinary the construction, living, and fighting within the Cu-Kai tunnels truly were. They were the stage for a fierce battle of wits between the Vietnamese soldiers and one of the most powerful armies in the world. Both sides constantly devised new ways to outsmart each other. In 1966, the U.S. launched Operation Cedar Falls, mobilizing over 12,000 troops, supported by air power, tanks, and artillery, to destroy Cu-Kai. It was a campaign they were confident would bring them victory. But what they didn't expect was that Vietnam had foreseen their plan a year in advance and prepared meticulously. The tunnel network had been expanded on a massive scale. In the past, each family dug their own shelter, separate from others, but now, the tunnels were connected, complete with kitchens, sleeping quarters, storage areas, and even weapon workshops. Everything was laid out with careful planning. The American goal was simple: trap and eliminate the guerrilla fighters hiding underground. They thought, if there are Viet Cong under Cu-Kai, we'll just flush them out, easy. Like catching rats in a trap. But the moment they set foot in Cu-Kai, they were hit hard, ambushed by Vietnamese forces again and again. With confidence in their superior weapons and numbers, the Americans fought back fiercely, chasing through the jungle like in an action movie. Yet strangely, after a few moments of pursuit, their targets vanished without a trace. Fear began to spread. Soldiers described it as if they were fighting ghosts. The tactics of the Vietnamese were so new, so unpredictable, that the U.S. troops, untrained for this kind of warfare, were left completely disoriented. After some time, the Americans managed to locate a few tunnel entrances. They tried pumping smoke inside, hoping it would leak out through other exits and reveal the network's layout. They believed the smoke would suffocate the soldiers below, forcing them to surface. But reality soon shattered their theory. The tunnels were so vast and complex that the smoke disappeared without emerging anywhere else. Every expectation the Americans had was completely wrong. They couldn't find the tunnels by sight. Everything was masterfully camouflaged. Entrances were covered with leaves, and air vents disguised as termite mounds. To the naked eye, there was no telling which was real and which was fake. So the U.S. tried another method, using stethoscopes to listen to the ground, pinpointing areas with faint underground sounds, almost like taking the Earth's blood pressure. But this method was slow and inefficient. The tunnel network was just too vast. Then came the next tactic, the dogs. The U.S. brought in the BFZ unit, a squad of trained German shepherds, each worth tens of thousands of dollars. These dogs were elite, professionally trained, treated with honor, even given military funerals. Their mission: sniff out human scent from airholes or hidden tunnels. This posed a serious problem for the Vietnamese soldiers. At first, they tried scattering chili powder and pepper around air vents to irritate the dogs' noses and mask human scent. It worked for a while, until the dogs began sneezing and barking loudly, unintentionally exposing the tunnels. So the soldiers adapted. They began collecting soap, uniforms, and perfume from American troops, and used them to coat the air vents. The dogs, familiar with their master's scent, simply ignored the smell and moved on. The trick worked brilliantly. But there was one problem: they didn't have nearly enough soap and perfume for every vent. So began the campaign known jokingly as "ideas from the dogs." Vietnamese fighters devised creative traps, ones that could capture both soldiers and dogs. According to later reports, over 300 German shepherds were killed or died of disease during the CUK operations. Locals even joked, wherever the dogs went, wild coriander grew in their place. When the dogs failed, the Americans switched to tear gas. Tear gas doesn't kill, but it burns the eyes, nose, and throat, and underground. It was devastating. Without gas masks, the guerrillas suffered greatly. But once again, they found a way. Using traditional knowledge, they soaked handkerchiefs in urine and covered their faces. The ammonia helped neutralize the gas burn, a simple but life-saving trick that kept them alive underground. Still unsatisfied, the Americans tried again, this time, pumping water from the Saigon River into the tunnels to flood them out. On paper, the idea seemed perfect. CUK was near the river, after all. But in reality, the tunnel's multi-level design and waterproof doors made it nearly impossible. The water seeped into the soil or drained right back into the river. Inside, Vietnamese fighters joked, "Lift your feet, brothers, the Americans are giving us a shower." When water didn't work, and tear gas failed, some wondered, why not just bomb the tunnels? The truth is, the Americans tried that too. They bombed in ways far more sophisticated than anyone expected. But that is a story for another day. And with that, our history program today comes to an end. Thank you all for watching and for your continued support. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next fascinating story from history, and to help the channel reach 1 million subscribers.